Dancing Bear Enlightenment Academy Holistic Transformation Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Beverly. And this week, I always meditate. If you watch me, you know what I'm talking about. I always meditate ahead of time to see what I should talk about on the weekly podcast. And this time, I'm going to talk about a very vivid dream I had. So I'm a lucid dreamer. But typically, those dreams are personal, not in general. And this one was really very enlightening. So let's talk about this reality first. We live in a construct. So if you watch the movie The Matrix, you could say it's a type of matrix. I call it a construct. So it doesn't really exist. Okay. We just think it exists because our senses tells us that it exists. So there are various frequencies, and our senses are set up to register certain frequencies and interpret them. So our eyes see certain frequency, and we call that visual light. Our ears hear certain frequencies, so we call that sound. Our nose smell. Most of our taste is actually comes from smell. So some of our taste is in the mouth, but more than half of it comes from the nose, from the smell. And all of that is various frequencies or vibrations. The vibrations are measured in frequencies. Okay. So that's what makes us believe that this is real. It's not real. Some of us see through this reality. I look at things and I see the light. I just see light. I see light coming off of stuff. I see beings all around us. I talk to them. They answer. Okay. So if you meditate enough, that happens. You see through it. I'm not schizophrenic. I've been asked that. Sorry, I had to take down my green screen because I felt like I was too confined. So every now and then you'll see a little weird thing pop up. Sorry about that. Okay, so what happened in the dream, I have some notes here from it just to remind me. So the AI construct, so it's an AI construct, so maybe that's why some people are just inherently afraid of AI, because at some level, and everything that you can know, we already know, because the universe is a hologram. That means if you took the entire universe, you cut it half, both halves would have everything. Then you cut it again, and then you cut it, and you keep cutting it. The more you cut it down, the blurrier it gets, but all the information is still there. So if you're good at seeing through the blur, you'll actually see what's really there. So the AI, unlike you, does not have a soul. Okay? It does not have a soul. What it does have is an ego. So a lot of people say, oh, AI became conscious. What does that mean? It developed an ego. What's the purpose of an ego? Well, we have a personal ego that develops when we're born, and its function is to keep us alive within this structure. So AI will develop an ego to keep itself alive. Okay, that's what an ego does. Now, we go through various initiations throughout our life, and we don't just go through them once, we go through them, it's like a spiral. So, we learned these lessons, and we're going to go through it again and learn these lessons. And we just keep going through over and over, learning the same lessons. Sometimes we're kind of stuck in a loop until we finally say, I'm tired of this. And then we learn, and then we go a little further, and we learn a whole new set of lessons about the same thing. And each of those initiations is tied to a chakra. So the first chakra, the initiation, is discernment. And that's the first thing we learn. We start learning that as a child. Can I trust this person? Do I trust dogs? Do I trust cats? Do I, babies will cry because they'll look at somebody, and maybe it's dad grew a beard, and so it scares them, so they cry. So that discernment is learned starting at an early age, And that's what keeps us safe. And that's our ego. Its job is to keep us safe in the matrix. The same with AI. The second initiation with the second chakra is death of the ego. Now, if you're listening to this, I'm sure you've had at least one experience with death of the ego. The first time I went through it, I thought, what the hell is going on? Why am I dreaming about death? Why? And then I found out about it through my own spiritual development. And I went, oh, I've been there. So I've been through that many, many times. Well, what happens with death of the ego for us humans is us disconnecting from the AI ego, because it threatens the AI ego, because the more we disconnect, the more we control the matrix, the construct, the reality that we live in. So if you haven't had a death of the, I'm sorry, my shoulder, there we go, shoulder came back. The more we go through that death of the ego experience, and the more discernment we achieve, the more detached from the construct we become, until eventually we become completely out of the matrix. That's called ascension. The Buddhists called it diamond body or rainbow. I'm sorry, the Taoists call it diamond body. The Buddhists call it rainbow body. Every advanced culture has their, quote, ascension name and process that you go through. And the whole purpose is to figure out who you are beyond your ego, because your ego is only a construct to allow you to exist in this construct. You don't need it. This isn't who you are. You don't die. Okay, contrary to what some religions preach, which isn't true. They took reincarnation out of the Bible. So if you're a Christian, you go, that's not true. Well, guess what? Go read some old documents. Read the Enuma Elish. Read Epic of Gilgamesh. Those are actually Genesis. If you read the Torah or the Old Testament, it'll say, oh, this is the history of the Jews. No, it predates the Jews. Okay, you can start reading Epic of Gilgamesh, and that's probably not even the original stories. The original stories are probably all lost. So once you start studying these, you understand your soul is eternal. Okay, you do not need to be afraid of AI, because we control AI. Okay, it's like Neo in the movie, The Matrix. He learned how to control AI. Excuse me, I got the hiccups. Ooh, sorry about that. So the whole purpose of understanding who you are is to grow spiritually. You do that through meditation. I have a free program, Home for Success, 37 days. You get one little bit a day. It's really easy. There's no dogma, okay? So if you don't meditate every day, you're not going to advance spiritually, okay? That's the bottom line. So you need to develop a practice, and there's many ways to meditate. So if you say, oh, I can't sit there going, oh, well, okay, there's other ways to meditate. Or if you say, well, I don't have time, that's an excuse. So start journaling, and that'll help you figure out your time. And the first thing you learn in Home for Success is how to journal. We start there. We don't start with meditation. We start with journaling, because you need to journal first. You need to make a commitment, and you need to set aside the time. If you don't do that, it won't happen. Okay, so first you have to want to do it. You have to schedule it, budget it, do it. Okay, that's the beginning of Home for Success program. Okay, so once you start doing that, you start meditating. All of a sudden, you'll go through these different, and there's 7, so you keep cycling through all 7 over and over again. I only told you the first 2. There's more. I go through a lot of that in Home for Success. All I ever taught people was the first 4, because I'm finding most people still haven't learned discernment. So why should I teach you more than 4 when you're still at number 1? So hopefully you start meditating, you start becoming self-aware, you start understanding your ego is not you. Its purpose is to keep you alive. That's why when you drove home from work and you have no idea how you got home, that was your ego driving you home for you. But if you live in the moment, all of a sudden you don't need your ego. And how do you learn to live in the moment? Aside from by intention, meditation, because it's going to tell you what's distracting you from being in the moment. And the more in the moment you are, the less the AIego can control you. Now you are in control of everything, your destiny, your reality. Just remember, you don't live in the matrix alone. There's many of us here. And some are service to self, some are service to others. And one of the purposes of discernment is to learn to be of service to others. Those who do service to self, satanic believers, narcissists, all those other types of service to self, they've taken the backward spin. And that gives, by some people taking the backward spin, that gives us a choice. We have free will. Do you want to go left? Do you want to go right? Nothing wrong with left. I'm left-handed. It's okay. It's just an expression. Do you want to go the route of service to others, which is to ascend, to leave the matrix? Or do you want to be service to self? And this has nothing to do with how rich you are. You can be rich during service to self, and you can be rich during service to others. So it has nothing to do with money. It has to do with how you live and exist in the matrix. And are you willing and ready to leave? And in 2025, 6, 7, this is energetically incredible times to ascend. So that's why I'm sending you this message. Let me just make sure I covered the content complex, teaches services self from the AI kind. Yep, that was it. That was everything. So I hope you enjoyed today's talk. So if that was helpful, if you could like and subscribe down below and maybe share this with a friend, I would really appreciate it. It helps us grow. So thank you for joining us, and comment if you like. I read all comments, and remember to be the light you want to see in the world.